At my cousin's wedding, Mom shouted, "Your sister sends us $8,000 a month. You just sit there like a burden." I quietly said, "That money's for me," but Dad yelled, "Stop lying." Always jealous of her. Then stop sending it.
So I did.
A month later, everything collapsed, and I never looked back. I never thought I'd reach a point where I'd say this out loud, but here it is. I don't have a family anymore. And honestly, sometimes it feels like I never really did. I'm Jasmine, 29 years old now, living in Austin, Texas, working as a software developer at a cybersecurity firm. If you met me today, you might think I've got it all together. Good job, my own apartment, a calm life. But if you scratch beneath the surface, there's a whole story, a twisted one about betrayal, favoritism, and lies so deep, they made me question my own worth. It starts with my family, or what used to be my family. I grew up with my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hartman, and my younger sister Layla, who's 6 years younger than me. From the moment she was born, it was like the sun rose and set with her. Everyone said she was beautiful. Big eyes, flawless skin, always smiling. Even strangers would stop us on the street to compliment her.
Me?
I was the smart one. Quiet, not especially pretty. Definitely not the favorite. I remember once when I was around 10, Layla wanted her own room. We didn't have a big house, so instead of telling her no, my parents just moved me to the living room. No discussion. My bed was suddenly wedged between an old bookshelf and the front window. "Layla's younger," they said. "Be the mature one, Jasmine." That line, I must have heard it 1,000 times. It didn't stop there. Layla got everything new, clothes, gadgets, even acting classes when she said she wanted to be a star.
Me?
I wore her hand-me-downs and never got to join any clubs at school because we had to save money. Funny though, we never seemed poor. My dad worked a steady office job. Mom stayed at home, but she always had new shoes or something sparkly on her wrist. I didn't complain. I guess I thought that's just how families worked. That's what good daughters did. Be quiet. Be helpful. Don't cause trouble. After high school, I went straight into tech school. I didn't even ask about college. I knew what they'd say. We need to save for Layla's future. So while she went off to some expensive school in California to study digital branding or something, I stayed back in Austin and started working full-time at a small IT help desk. A few years later, Layla started getting popular online. She posted makeup tutorials, did little dances, and somehow people liked it. She began calling herself a beauty influencer. My parents were obsessed. Every conversation turned into, "Did you see Layla's new post?" Or, "She got free skincare from a brand today." I was happy for her, I guess. But it hurt too. I was working late nights, debugging servers, and all they could talk about was eyeliner reviews. One evening, Layla called. "Hey, Jazz," she said in her usual bubbly voice. "I was thinking, why don't we both send Mom and Dad some money every month? Like a thank you for everything they've done for us." I was surprised. "How much were you thinking? Maybe like $3,500 each? It's not that bad, right? I mean, I already do brand work, so it's manageable." $3,500? That was more than half my paycheck. But I didn't say no. I wanted to be seen, finally. I wanted them to say, "Jasmine cares about us too." So I agreed. I cut back on everything, no eating out, no new clothes, not even proper heating in winter. But it still wasn't enough. I picked up a night shift job at a warehouse loading packages. Grueling work. Heavy lifting. My hands cracked from the cold. But every month, I sent the money. We agreed to send it anonymously through a shared account labeled Skylight. It felt poetic. Layla said it was symbolic of us both being the light in our parents' lives. I should have known better. 3 months in, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Missed calls. Voicemails from my mom and dad, furious. When I finally answered, Dad's voice was sharp, angry. "Do you think this is funny, Jasmine?" "What?" I asked, still waking up after my shift. "Sending $5.80 to mock us? While your sister sends the full amount faithfully every month." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I send the full amount. Every single month." "Don't lie. We know." Layla sends $3,500. You send a joke.
I didn't know what to say.
I was frozen. Had something gone wrong with the transfers? Was I being scammed? I'm not lying, I said. I've been working 2 jobs just to. You've always been selfish, Mom cut in. Your sister at least cares. We're so disappointed in you, Jasmine. They hung up. I sat there for hours in shock. And then slowly it started to click. The account name, Skylight. Layla's online nickname was Sky. Of course they thought it was her. They never even considered that I could be the one sending the full amount. Layla never corrected them. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling thinking, how could they believe I'd do that? Why didn't Layla speak up? The next day, I stopped the payments. No warning. No message.
Just done.
A week later, Layla texted me. Hey, is everything okay? Mom and Dad said you stopped the money. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Something inside me had cracked. Not just from the betrayal, but from the realization that I had spent my whole life chasing approval from people who never saw me. I decided it was time to stop being the mature one. And that was just the beginning. After I stopped sending the money, I expected Layla or my parents to come at me with questions. Maybe they'd finally ask, why? Or even realize something was wrong.
But no.
It was silence. At first. Then 3 weeks later, a message from Layla popped up. Jazz, what are you doing? Mom and Dad are so upset. You just stopped helping them? That's not cool. I stared at the screen for a while before typing. Did you ever tell them it was me sending the full amount? That they've been blaming the wrong person? Her reply came almost instantly. Why would I? They assumed it was me. Not my fault. Not her fault. It was all I needed to hear. I left the message on read and blocked her number. I didn't want an apology anymore. I wanted answers. And maybe revenge. Not out of hatred, but because I had allowed myself to be invisible for too long. I reached out to my college friend Camille, one of the few people I trusted. She was living in San Diego now, working as a legal consultant, sharp as ever. She didn't do sugarcoating, which was exactly what I needed. We met on a video call later that evening. Girl, she said, narrowing her eyes as I told her everything. You've been paying $3,500 a month out of your salary and warehouse gig for what? To be insulted. I nodded, exhausted. They think I sent $5 and Layla's the generous one. She let them believe it. Camille sighed and shook her head. First of all, let's get real. Do they actually need that money? I thought they did, I said. But my dad just bought a new SUV. And my mom's been flashing designer handbags in her social posts. Camille leaned back, arms crossed. Then stop being their A-team. Honestly, if they think you're only worth $5, take the hint and let them live with that. Her words stung, but they stuck. That night, I lay in bed, thinking about everything I had sacrificed. My health, my sleep, my dignity, all for people who thought of me as a backup plan. So, I started making changes. I quit the warehouse job. My body couldn't take it anymore. Instead, I used those hours to study for a cybersecurity certification. I figured if I was going to pour my energy into something, it should be into myself. Every day was a grind. Coding all day, studying all night. I lived off instant noodles and caffeine, barely slept, but I was free, no more living to please them. A few months later, I passed the certification. 2 weeks after that, I got a new job offer, tech project manager, same company but a much higher position and pay. 6 figures. Just like that, my entire financial reality shifted. But what really shook me was what came next. It was a Wednesday morning, cold outside. I was sipping my coffee when someone buzzed my apartment. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked through the peephole before opening the door. A well-dressed man in his 30s stood there, holding a folder. Are you Jasmine Hartman? He asked. Yes. I'm with Everline Finance. I'm here regarding a loan of $50,000 taken under your name. My blood went cold. I didn't take out any loan. He opened the folder. According to this application, you did. About 4 months ago. It lists your home address and full legal name. I blinked. That's not me. I stopped. That's my family. I asked him to wait, shut the door, and ran to grab my laptop. I pulled up my records, nothing under my name, no loan taken. I opened our old shared payment platform and traced it back to Layla. And there it was, a small transfer to Everline with my name used as a reference.
It was them.
They had used my name, my credit,
My trust.
I opened the door again, handed the man my ID and employment documents, and said with the calmest voice I could manage, I don't know these people. I've had no contact with them for months. If they use my identity, I want to report it as fraud. He paused, taking notes. All right, Ms. Hartman. We'll begin an investigation. As soon as he left, I collapsed onto the couch. My hands were shaking. I wasn't even surprised, just numb. It was like the final confirmation of everything I had been afraid of. They didn't love me. They used me. Later that night, Camille called. You did the right thing, she said. But don't stop there. If they faked your name for a loan, you need to make it official, cut ties legally, block everything. And I did. I filed a fraud claim, sent a cease and desist letter through Camille's office, and changed every account tied to my name. It was messy, but it felt like taking back control. Still, something inside me was boiling. Layla had lived off my money while pretending to be a success. My parents paraded around like kings while I was breaking my back working night shifts. And now they were dragging me into debt? I wasn't going to let them win.
So, I started digging.
I made a fake account and followed Layla's social media. Most of her photos were filters and reruns of old photo shoots. In the comments, I saw hints, friends talking about her struggles, her weird mood swings. One even joked, "Girl, if you keep shopping like this, your sister's gonna need a third job." That was the last straw. They didn't know it yet, but everything they'd hidden, the fake lifestyle, the lies, the debt, I was going to bring it to light. Not with screaming or fights, but with silence, facts, and action. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be unforgettable. A few months passed after I reported the fraud. I didn't hear from Layla or my parents, not directly. But I started getting messages from unknown numbers. Vague, guilt-tripping stuff. You should take responsibility. Family is family no matter what. Running from your blood doesn't erase it. I ignored all of them. Then one morning, Layla finally cracked. She called from a different number. Why haven't you been answering? She snapped, skipping over any greeting. Why did you stop the money? And what's this about you filing fraud? I stayed quiet for a moment, then said, You stole from me, Layla. You put a loan in my name. I didn't mean to. Mom and Dad thought it was okay. We needed help. My voice went cold.
You didn't ask. You just used me.
And you let them believe I was a selfish, worthless daughter, while I was the one breaking my back every night. There was silence. Then a quieter voice, one I barely recognized. I didn't think it would get this far. It always gets this far when you lie, I replied. Now deal with it. I hung up.
But that wasn't the end.
Not even close. About 2 weeks later, I got another visit, this time not from a finance officer, but from my parents. They showed up outside my apartment like they had every right to be there. I opened the door, not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed closure. My dad looked thinner. My mom had bags under her eyes, but she still had her designer purse slung over her shoulder. You've made a huge mess, my dad said without hesitation. That loan was our only hope. And now you've ruined our name. I couldn't believe the audacity. I ruined your name? I asked. You lied. You faked my identity. You guilt-tripped me into working 2 jobs so Layla could keep up her lifestyle, and now I'm the villain. My mom stepped forward. Don't be dramatic, Jasmine. We raised you. We deserve a little support. Support? I laughed, dry and bitter. You treated me like an outsider in my own family. And now you show up because your scam didn't work out. Dad's tone shifted. We're your parents. You owe us. That word, owe. It made something in me snap. I don't owe you anything. I gave you everything, and you still chose her over me. You let me believe I wasn't enough. And you think just showing up now will fix it? He stiffened. We don't need a daughter like you. Great, I said, stepping back. Then don't come back. As they turned to leave, my mom added one last twist. We'll just use the money your grandfather left you. He'd want the family to stay afloat. I froze. What? You think we didn't know he left a separate fund for you? We're going to use it. I slammed the door without another word. Later that night, I dug out the old letter Grandpa Elroy had written me. In it, he said, "This is for your future, when you're ready to bloom on your own, without anyone holding you back." I made sure that fund was locked tight. And that was it. I was done. 3 months of silence followed. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Until one Saturday morning, the doorbell rang again. I opened it cautiously and found the last people I wanted to see, my parents and Layla. But they looked different this time. Worn out.
Pale.
Almost desperate. What do you want now?
I asked.
They stepped inside without asking. I didn't stop them. I was too curious. Mom's voice trembled. We lost the house. We've filed for bankruptcy. Everything's gone. Layla looked worse than I had ever seen her. Makeup streaked, clothes mismatched, like she hadn't cared how she looked for days. Why are you telling me this?
I asked.
Dad replied flatly. We thought you should know. And maybe you could help. Just until we get back on our feet. I stared at them in disbelief. You lied to me.
Used me.
Shamed me. And now you expect a handout. Layla wiped a tear. I was scammed, Jasmine. A fake agency promised to make me a star. I paid thousands to sign with them. Then they disappeared. I tried working at clubs, but I wasn't good at it. I'm not who I thought I was. She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. It was the first time I'd seen real pain in her. Not entitlement, not arrogance, but shame. Still, I didn't move. I gave everything I had, I said softly. I nearly lost myself trying to earn love from people who only cared about appearances. I worked nights, skipped meals, studied through exhaustion for what?
Dad tried again.
You've done well for yourself. Better than all of us. Can't you share a little? I shook my head. You all made your choices. You spent my money on luxuries, on image, on lies. And now you want to be saved by the daughter you never defended? At that moment, a man in a gray suit appeared outside the door, a representative from Everline, the finance company. He held a document, looked inside, and asked, "Are these the individuals you reported for identity theft?" I didn't blink. I don't know these people. He nodded and walked off. Their faces fell. You didn't mean that, my mother said quietly. But I did. I meant every word. They left in silence. No more pleading. No more arrogance. And just like that, I was finally free. From them. From everything. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. And the best part? I wasn't done yet. 6 years passed. That's how long it's been since I last saw them. My parents. Layla. That door closed for good the day I said I didn't know them, and I never looked back. No letters. No calls. Nothing. The silence was the cleanest sound I'd ever heard. During those years, my life changed more than I ever thought possible. I kept moving forward. I poured everything into my work, and my efforts paid off. I climbed the ranks at my company, eventually becoming a senior tech project manager. I even started mentoring new developers, something I never imagined myself doing. I moved into a better apartment in downtown Austin, closer to the office. It had a small balcony with plants I somehow kept alive. Jasmine flowers, mostly. I guess I liked the quiet reminder of who I was named after. Camille, and I stayed close. She was still in San Diego, thriving in her career, and a few months ago, she called me with exciting news. "I'm getting married," she said, almost breathless. "To who?" "Someone unexpected. But it's real, Jasmine. I feel safe with him. Finally." I smiled. "You deserve it. You have to come," she said. "It's in Big Sur, cliffside, overlooking the ocean." And, of course, I went. I owed her everything. Camille had been the one constant voice of clarity in my life when I was drowning. I wouldn't miss that wedding for the world. The drive up the California coast was long but beautiful. Twisting roads, towering redwoods, and then suddenly, endless blue waves crashing against the cliffs. The wedding venue looked like a dream carved into the edge of the earth. There were flowers everywhere, and the salty wind made my hair dance in ways I didn't bother to fix. I hadn't seen Camille in person for over a year, but when she spotted me, she rushed over in heels and hugged me like no time had passed. "You look amazing," she said, eyes shining. "You look like someone who's making the best decision of her life," I replied. She laughed, then leaned in. "Listen, there's someone I want you to meet." I raised an eyebrow. "Camille." "Just talk to him. He's good people." "His name's Jordan. Architect. Funny. Real. I think you two might click." I rolled my eyes but followed her gaze toward a man standing by the railing.
Tall.
Broad shoulders. Clean cut. There was something calm about him, like he didn't need to speak to take up space. And when he looked at me and smiled, something strange fluttered in my chest. It wasn't dramatic, just warm. Later, after the vows were said and the sun began to dip below the horizon, Camille brought Jordan over. "This is Jasmine," she said. "And this is Jordan." He extended a hand. "I've heard a lot about you." "Only the filtered version, I hope," I joked. He laughed. "Camille says you're the reason she stopped second-guessing herself at work. That's a big deal." We talked. And talked.
About work. About life.
About California versus Texas. I didn't realize how much time had passed until the waitstaff started clearing dessert plates. At one point, Jordan asked, "Do you ever feel like the worst things that happen to us end up being the reason we change for the better?" I looked at him. Really looked. Every single day. As the sky darkened and lanterns lit up the cliffside, I stepped away for a moment and stood by the edge of the bluff. Below, the ocean crashed in slow rhythm, endless and wild. I closed my eyes and let the wind touch my face. And I whispered, "Grandpa Elroy, I made it." I remembered his words, the ones he used to say when I was little and felt invisible. The jasmine flower doesn't bloom in a day. It takes time. But once it does, it never hides again.
He was right.
After the wedding, Jordan and I kept in touch. Texts turned into calls. Calls into dinners. I didn't rush anything. I didn't need to. For once, I wasn't chasing anything. I was just being. And as for my family, well, after the bankruptcy, they moved into a tiny apartment in Waco, last I heard. My dad picked up temporary labor jobs, and my mom stopped showing off bags she no longer owned. Layla tried working in nightclubs, but her attitude didn't sit well with management, and her influencer reputation crumbled fast. A friend of mine spotted her once and said she barely recognized her. Apparently, she tells people she used to be famous, but no one believes her anymore. I never responded to the messages she sent. They were desperate, scattered, sometimes bitter. I kept them, though, not out of guilt, but as proof of how far I'd come. And if you're wondering whether I ever wanted revenge, maybe I did once. But the truth is, success was my revenge. Peace was my revenge. Saying no was my revenge. There's power in silence, in walking away. And now, every time I step out onto that balcony, smelling the jasmine flowers blooming in the wind, I know I'm finally living the life I was meant to. No noise. No lies. No debt to anyone but myself. Just me. Whole.
Free.